Hey everybody, this is SuperIng, and this is going to be my new and improved tutorial on how to make your own custom animations for Melee. And first, I'll need to start by thanking this guy, PloAj. He's the one that's made custom animations possible through the use of his programs that he's built. The two programs we'll need that PloAj has made are Studio SB and another one called HSDlib. You can find all of his stuff on GitHub. So huge shout outs to him. Um, and I'm showing you where to download it because he makes updates to the programs every now and then. So you'll need to know where to get the latest version should the need arise. So you can find his stuff on GitHub. Don't do clone or download here because this is the uncompiled version. Click on release. And this is where you can get the latest version that's been compiled. Same thing with this. Go to release and you can grab it here. So once you have those two programs downloaded, it's going to look like this. Let me clear this out real quick. And let's start by extracting the animations that we'll want. I'm going to be working on an animation for Sheik, so let's open Sheik's information. So right here, when you open HSD, go to Tools and AJ Tool, and we need to open the character files to extract the animations. The first one is this, PL, and we want to grab Sheik. So let's go here. All this stuff, I kind of try to simplify it as best I could. This has all the character files, vanilla by the way, all in one place, and also has the character models extracted, so kind of helps streamline the process a little bit. But I'll provide a link to that in the description. So yeah, we open PLSK, that's Sheik, and now we need PLSKAJ. That's the animation file, a file where all the animations are kept, which you can see here, all this. These are all the animations that Sheik has. And make note of how the animations are named, like the individual animations. This is important for when we need to re-import the animation. So just kind of make note of that, but I'll touch back on that when it actually comes time for it. But let's go ahead and extract all these. Let's go here. So those have been extracted, and I'll show you how to recompile the file once we get to that point. But that's all we need HSD for at this moment. And let me see. Okay, I've got that there. So now that we've got, you've got my file that has all the character files where you can view animations and their models, and we've got the actual animations themselves extracted. Let's go here to Studio SB, and this is where you can actually view the character's model. Once again, like I said, I have already extracted the models, so you can start using them right away. You don't need to extract them yourself to something Maya can use. But this is what Studio SB looks like. If we go to where we extracted all our animations, we can play them here and look how they work. So that's pretty cool. This is a good place to look to like see, make sure your animation looks good and isn't choppy or... Sorry about that. Headset turned off. Choppy or make sure it looks natural. Another thing you might find that you need is this little tab up here that says DOBJ. This lets you like toggle the mesh that has textures, texture mesh, or actually it's probably the mesh itself. But it'll highlight white what's selected. So I could turn that off. That's a low poly version of Sheik's hair, low poly foot, low poly arm. You can kind of deselect it. It's useful for characters if you're trying to view a character like Kirby, for example. His stone will be in the way. I'll just show that for example. But like if you were trying to do something for Kirby, his stone and stuff is in the way, so you might want to know how to clear those so you can actually see the animation play here. So yeah, that's just good to know. But anyways, let me get back to where I was with Sheik. So we've got Sheik here, and since we already got the model, we don't really need to extract it, but this is this program, not only does it let you view models and stuff like that, this is what converts the file types between .dat, which is what Melee uses, and .anim, which what we need for Maya to work. So I'll just pull one of these. Let's use the weight animation just to get that pose, the starting pose, because a lot of like jab, F tilt, F smash are all going to have this pose. So let's grab that. We're going to do export animation to file, and I'll just do weight and type .anim right there. And just have match this. This should work just fine. Optimize false, Maya 2015 false, and Radiance true. Okay, so now we've got an animation file that Maya can read. And let's go ahead and open Sheik's model. And if you're importing an animation, you need to select all the bones. To expand all of the bones instead of like one at a time, just do shift click this. It'll expand all of them. And then shift click to select all. And we got to go to import. And this is our weight animation that we exported, which we got right here. And that's what it looks like. And you'll notice that a lot of animations kind of look a little off, but that's because Melee actually corrects animations. Like it looks like the legs are coming off the ground and stuff, but Melee has a thing called foot snap, which makes the feet stick to the floor, so it doesn't look like Sheik is floating. So that Melee will kind of fix some small things like that. And if you actually look in that folder that I'll have in the description, it kind of goes into foot snap and how it works if you want to look into it under instructions. But we can come back to that later. But yeah, this is showing you how to import an animation. You can, if you click on this little icon right here, it's like called the X-ray, I think. It will show you all the bones while the mesh is there. So you can start moving stuff. And don't really need to move anything right now, but that's what we've got. So we imported the model, imported the animation, and if you wanted to grab that pose, you could go to the starting frame, right click it, and copy, and you could start going from there. So now I'm kind of going to skip ahead to an animation I've already got. So let's open that. So jumping ahead, like I said, this is an animation I've been working on. This is going to play at the end of rapid jabs, so it's like a jab finisher. And I'm going to show you a few things to do to make sure your animation plays right in game. So I think that looks pretty good. You want to select all your bones, and a few other things I forgot to mention are, for Maya, the version that you choose is important. You don't want to use 2019, you'll actually want to use 2018. 2019 seems to have problems exporting anims for whatever reason, so make sure to use 2018. And so yeah, let me show you what I was going to do next. We'll need to go to Windows. You might need to be, no, it looks like it's under all the different ones. So yeah, go to Windows and Animation Editors, Graph Editor. And what this is showing us is basically the key, basically the point where the bone is like oriented has been saved. That's what a key is. That's a keyframe. That's what all these little yellow dots mean, and the line in between just shows you how like the value changes. And so for some animations you might have a lot of keys, and so if space is an issue, you want to delete some things you can do is like simplify curve here, and that will delete. You can also mess with the settings to get it to how you like. And you also may need to do something like this where you change the tangents. I know from experience that spline doesn't look right in Studio SB, so usually you probably want to just stick to auto, or maybe some cases linear, but auto should probably do most things. But that can help iron out a lot of wrinkles in your animation, is making sure it's under auto. And another thing I should mention is all the different uh, attributes under each joint are for like scale for each axis, XYZ, rotation, and translation. A lot of these bones, I keep translation and everything for the first like 4, and then uh, you don't really need scale or translation on other bones, because that what it will look like is say in some cases you want it for like, for example, Mario's forward air, his fist grows large, so you'll want his fist to grow. You'll keep it in that situation, but rarely, if ever, will you want translation attributes on a joint, because it will make stuff look bad like this. Separate it from the model. So you basically can delete all the translation attributes except for these first few ones, because that's how the model actually moves, like in this dash. This 0 usually is rarely ever keyed. I just key the first and last frame. Might be able to get away with less, but that's just how I do it. And I also explain this in the notes, like the instructions in that folder I've mentioned a couple times. Under instructions, under here, guidelines, just a few notes. But the first joint controls like left and right. So that would be, what axis is that? Z-axis, it looks like. Or no, that would be X-axis. What am I thinking? This controls the X-axis. Joint 2, I usually let control the Y-axis. 3 kind of can fine-tune the 2, or you can have it for Z-axis specifically. And what that allows you to do is it just allows the character to move more smoothly. So each bone has its own function. Instead of trying to do movement and rotation and scale all in the same bone, it can get way too messy to try to key all those independently. So just designating those first few bones to those, confining those to those movements will help smooth out a lot of things with the animations. And a bone 4 is generally, or usually, the hip bone, or waist. I guess it would be technically hip, but that's like actual part of the character. These other ones can kind of separate out, just to kind of give you a feel of how it looks. So yeah, bone, this is bone 2 connects to bone 3, and then bone 3 is connecting to 4. 4 actually is like controls the mesh of the model, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, getting back to what I was saying, uh, just get the hang of, you know, you're going to have to learn on the way. I'm still learning how to animate. I can't teach you everything. So just, there's a lot of good information on YouTube, Google, you can find stuff. But the big takeaway being uh, how to normalize like the tangents, how to delete the keys to things you don't need to save space. You don't want a file that's a couple megabytes because that's going to be way too big for Melee. It's an old game. This will help you optimize it, make it look better, help save space. So, um, next step. So I think it's in a pretty good spot how it is now. And let me just show you how to delete a few if keys you don't need. So you could just select, you'll want to delete ones that don't change the line very much. So like this one, probably not necessary. You could just select it, drag select, and delete or backspace. And there's like tools that can do it for you, but it's kind of messy. I find it just better to go through it by hand. It's a little tedious, but you get fast at it. Kind of have to. But yeah, just delete what doesn't really need to be there. Doesn't change the line a whole lot. That was this one would probably be acceptable, and you can be more lenient with bones that aren't like the actual feet because you want the feet to stay planted. Make sure they always look good next to the ground, but like arms and stuff, they can kind of move freely. They don't need to be as tied down in that regard. Like that, I could probably delete that there. But sometimes if you bake an animation, you'll have a yellow circle on each frame. So you'll have a bunch of them. You don't want all those. Even here, you can probably delete a few. So yeah, you wouldn't think just deleting a few wouldn't do much, but it saves a lot of space in the long run. Anyways, that should hopefully give you a general feel for it. I think it's in a pretty good spot where I've got it now. So let's go ahead and export this. Show you the settings I've got. So I always just do export selection, and these are the settings you'll want. Um, the important one you'll need to check is this one, use node and leaf attribute names. Make sure that's checked. All this other stuff, hierarchy, selected, channels, keyable, shapes, make sure it's shapes. Um, time range, that should be kind of self-explanatory. And then segments here. So, and you can kind of look up what these all mean. Say if you wanted to do this, Maya anim save settings. You could probably look it up here. And this will tell you what each one does. But yeah, not really necessary though. This is what you can get away with. So let's go ahead and name this dash attack. Or let's do, I'm not doing a dash attack, I want jab finisher for Sheik. Okay. And let's go here. Okay, so I've exported my new animation, and now I need to convert it over to the DAT format for Melee to be able to read it. So let's go ahead and play this in Studio SB. So it looks pretty good. What I need to do now is export animation to file. And this is where the naming convention comes into play. And capital and spelling definitely matter. If it's spelled wrong, the animation won't play right in game. So this is replacing attack 100 as the multi-jab and then the end of that. So this is replacing the jab, basically acting as a jab finisher. I think that should be good. I think I spelled everything right. Might as well just double check to be sure. So yeah, attack 100, PLY, seek, action, attack 100, and figure tree. Yep, looks good. Okay. And here, make sure it says true for this. Loop animation is for obviously an animation that loops. For like multi-jabs, you want this to be true, or like a walk cycle, running cycle, or like how the character waits idle. That's a looping animation, but this is not going to loop, so that's false for us. And then we'll also need to how it's named, how we named it here a second ago. Same thing, just leave out the .dat at the end, so it just ends in figure tree. Okay. So now we have this file we exported. This is our new animation exported to something the game can read. So now we need to recompile the animation file to for the game to be able to play it. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to copy and paste this into this file here to replace what was there before. We're going to go back to HSD and do replace all. Select, this is the file that has all the animations extracted in it that we just replaced. So we're going to select that. And now what we need to do is export the like the overarching file before it's extracted. That's what this is doing. So we do export dot or export dat, and we'll just do new. And I might as well point this out as well. What HSD, this program does is it recompiles the file, so it's the best way to save space. My old tutorial tacked on the new animation to the end of the file, which can be useful if you want both animations. So for like, if you wanted to do a mod for like 20XX, where some files have vanilla animations, but then you can switch it over to a new file that has your new animations, tacking it on at the end uh, might suit you. So I'm actually not going to cover that with this video, but I'll put a link to where there's like a thread on Smashboards where it's discussed, and you can watch my old video to learn how to do that part of it. But for this, for the sake of this video, we're just going to stick to HSD because it is saves the most space. So we'll just do that. Most optimized. So we've got our sheet file extracted, and it should be named new. So yeah, these are the two files. And what we need to do now is rebuild the ISO because these files are bigger than the, well, actually I don't even know if they're bigger. This one is slightly bigger, but this one's actually a little bit smaller. That's PloAj being a god, making the file size actually smaller. It's cool. So we might actually not need to rebuild the ISO, but I'll go ahead and show that off. I get a lot of questions about it. So let's just grab a vanilla ISO then. So go here, this is image, open. I'm going to where I have my vanilla ISO. And this is everything that's on like an actual Melee disk. All these files. And we need to extract. We're going to right click on where it says root, export. And let's see here. Go to that file I had set up. We're going to export all these files. Alright, so we've extracted our ISO. And now these are our new files. So we need to, let me do this. So we're replacing the vanilla chic files, so let me name them the same way so that it replaces them. That's how the game finds them too. So PLSK, PLSKHA. Okay, and then just paste it in here. And that will replace what was the original chic file. So, and then let's just rebuild it. So we go, let's close this, go to root, open, where you had it extracted with the files replaced now. Select this root file, folder I guess is what it is, and then save. And after save, then rebuild. Okay, so the ISO's been rebuilt. There was actually one thing I forgot to do, but let me show you what it's going to look like, and I'll show you how we fix it. Let's go here. So this is our new ISO with chic with the new jab finisher. We haven't added any hurt boxes and stuff, or hit boxes, but that's for another video.
Training mode. Zelda.
So this is purely just an animation at this point still.
Go.
Okay, see? And this is showing, highlighting the thing I forgot to show you, how Sheik goes back to the starting point. And it kind of also helps to see it in game, see how it looks. Actually needs to go a little bit further and start out going further faster, so I'll need to go back and touch it up. But how Sheik snaps back to the beginning where she was before, let me show you how to fix that. It might also be helpful to look at the folder in the description, once again, under instructions, under this sub-action table help. This explains how we need to fix that issue in hexadecimal. So let's go here. We need to open Sheik's main character file. Oh, I actually need to figure out where that is located. Let's see. So this is Crazy Hand, a program that's used to add things like hitboxes and stuff. So it's pretty user-friendly. Well, it's the most user-friendly. So I'd recommend getting this. There's a link in the folder. You'll find a lot of stuff in there. So yeah, so it's going to be kind of scrambled up because how it works. I might need to use a different file reader thing. So that's another thing. With this method, it rearranges, because it's recompiling it for whatever reason, I don't really know how Crazy Hand works on that in that regard, but it might not read the file smoothly anymore. So if you use the old method where you tack the animation on at the end, it doesn't affect Crazy Hand at all. You could still use it. If you do recompile how I'm suggesting, you'd probably want to use this program made by another legend named Mur. I'll include that in the folder as well. But this is going to help me find out where Sheik's jab finisher is in her file, instead of just looking at a bunch of numbers, which would be hard. All harder. Let's see. This one. So even though it looks a little different, the result is the same. I'll just compare it to this. So this is what you'll be looking at that I've included in the instructions. But where it's highlighted red here, this tells us where in this file this information is located. So we need to go to 4454. So I know where to go now. I can close that. And this fix is only, everything else that I've showed you up to this point will work for pretty much everything, except for like where the character changes position in the animation itself. So this is kind of just like an extra step based on what you're changing. So it was 4454. We need to subtract 2 from that, or 20. That gives us 4434. And that brings us to the move in the sub-action table. So, let's see here. This is what we need to look at. So once again, it's got like pictures and stuff in this file that I've got, and text, so you can actually read it. Might be helpful if you learn better that way. But same thing. I'll go over it real quick. This first group, this is the sub-action ID. Read the instructions for more detail. This is where the animation is located in the PLSKAJ folder. That's the animation length. This is where the game reads the sub-action data. That's where we got here, 4434. And this last one is the player ID, 07. What we need to change is this one, this first bit, and change it to 80. And hit save. 80 allows the game, or allows the animation to change position when it's over. The only other thing to note is this can also be 40 for if the animation loops. So if the animation loops, you need to say loop in Studio SB, and you need to put a 40 here in the hexadecimal for the loop to work correctly. But now we've got that changed to 80, and we don't need to recompile because we're not changing the actual size of the file. So the file size is staying the same. So we can go ahead and just replace the one that's already in here. Import, and this is the one we just saved. And boom. So now if I did that right, I believe I did, now Sheik should change position in game.
Training Mozilla. Go!
Okay, looks good. So now she actually moves across the stage with the animation, as she should, similar to, how dash attack works. But yeah, that's basically it. We covered, let me just run down let's see, run down how to find the program, how to extract the files, how to convert the files, how to use Maya, basically how to name it, how to use HSD. So, yeah, I'm sure there's probably something I forgot. Uh, Please ask questions in the comments, and I will probably have to make like a Q&A, or I might have to make a second video trying to explain or clarify. But this should help you get your own animations made, start to finish, get it working in game. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope this helps. See you next time.